What's up, guys? Welcome back to the KP Show. This week we're going to change it up a little bit. Instead of doing, the group positions, we're going to just have an interview, and we're going to go with one of the more recent talked about prospects in the NFL draft, Henry Anderson, and I'm joined by him now from Stanford. Henry, what's going on?
Not much. Just working out here in Palo Alto, getting ready for my pro day in a few weeks, and the draft in a couple months.
Yeah, so let's kind of go through how you got to this point. So you were a three-star recruit. How did you end up at Stanford?
So I did get recruited by quite a few ACC and SEC schools just around the Southeast. Grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, and Stanford was, I think, my second offer when I was a junior in high school. And at the time, I didn't really think too much of it, just because I had, I had my sights set on going to kind of a more school that had kind of a more well-established football team and was more of a powerhouse than Stanford was at the time. But as the process went along, and I took my visits and talked with all the coaches, Stanford kind of moved up the board for me. And a lot of it had to do with Coach Harbaugh, who was coaching at the time. He was one of the more competitive people, probably the most competitive guy I've ever met. And I really liked that about him. And, the rest of the coaching staff was the same sort of way. So that kind of set Stanford apart for me. Obviously, academics was important for me. I went to a private school in Atlanta and really focused on school as well as football. So the fact that Stanford has elite academics was important for me as well. But I really liked the coaching staff what Coach Harbaugh had going on at Stanford. So that's the combination of those two things, coupled with the fact that my visit out there, I loved it. Felt really comfortable out there, even though it was all the way across the country. All those things kind of led me to choose Stanford.
Who was the first offer that you got in high school?
It was Maryland. Maryland was my first one.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you're in your first year in Palo Alto. So as a freshman, when you first got to the school, what was your first wow moment in practice? Like, damn, this isn't high school anymore.
Yeah. So it's a funny story that I've told a bunch of people, but it was the first day of full pads in fall camp when I got. It was my freshman year, first day of full pads. We're doing Oklahoma drill, and I'm like 250 at the time, and going up against some of the older offensive linemen on the team, and I'm just getting killed. I'm getting thrown around, just getting ragdolled by these dudes, and we had a walk-on who was also a freshman, who was in the station next to me, and he was killing dudes. He was dominating everyone, and so after we each did a few, after I got killed a few times, and the walk-on next to me was dominating. Coach Harbaugh stopped practice, and like the whole team was at the Oklahoma, and Coach Harbaugh stopped practice and kind of he blew his whistle, had everyone pause, and asked our operations guy if, in front of the whole team, he said, can we take Henry Anderson's scholarship and can we give it to him? And at that time I was freaking out. I mean, this is like my first real college football experience, and I was freaking out. Like I didn't know if he was even allowed to do that, and I immediately walked over to one of my teammates and I asked, is he allowed to do that? Can he take my scholarship? So that kind of scared me, and really was kind of my first introduction to college football.
Man, that's good stuff. So I guess kind of on the opposite side of that, so conversely, when did you realize, and when you're at Stanford, that I actually do belong here? I can do this. I can go somewhere with this.
Yeah. I think it was my redshirt sophomore year. It was me and another good defensive end who's actually in the league now. We kind of had a little position battle going on opposite of our other defensive end, but I ended up winning the job, and that was kind of the first time where I was like, all right, I think I can go somewhere with this. It didn't. It took me about three games to really start feeling comfortable out on the field. Probably the third, I think it was third or fourth game, we played Washington, and everything just started clicking for me. Played really well, and just felt like, there was a point in the game where I just felt like I could do whatever I wanted. And from that point forward, it just kind of, I just kind of carried that attitude with me for the rest of my college career, and I think I guess that was kind of the one. I don't know if it was a moment, but it was that one game kind of carried me throughout.
I don't know if you can answer this, just based off memory, but let's say that you're getting graded by the coaches and nobody's seen you play. So what would be the one game that you tell somebody else to go watch of Henry Anderson that, this is the game that you need to see to get to know who the real Henry Anderson is, to see all his skills?
Yeah, I think the Utah game this past year I played real well. And like stat-wise, that was by far my best game. So that's usually the game that I would tell people to go watch. And let's see. But, I mean, technique-wise, I think I've played better games. I think, Oregon State this past season was one of my better games that I feel like I've played. I didn't quite get the sacks and the TFLs that I wanted, but I thought overall that game I played real solid.
Yeah, that's actually the two most productive games that I have you down for. I'm glad that you said that, Utah and Oregon State. Against Utah, these guys, like nowadays, they keep track of what's called like a stop. So, a tackle basically within 40% of the line or 40% of the down and distance. And against Utah, I had you down for like 10 stops, which is ridiculous. And then going against Oregon State, I actually didn't even watch the whole game because I don't think there was anything left for you to prove that game. So like up until like the start of the fourth quarter, I had you down for beating your man in the passing game like 7 times, and that's when I just enough is enough. There's nothing for me to see here. So that was pretty impressive. So I'm glad that you said those two. So kind of moving off from that and getting into. No, you didn't play against a lot of pretty talented people. So, who would you say the best player was during your career that you played against?
Yeah, we did play Notre Dame last year, and I bumped over to the side. Usually, I was kind of the left end in our defense. I bumped over to the right end for this game, and for the Notre Dame game last year, it was Zach Martin at tackle, who's obviously an All-Pro now, and Chris Watt was also the guard. So that double team was not very fun to take on. But I think Zach Martin was probably the best guy that I've played against.
Yeah, I think the NFL kind of overthought Zach Martin. That guy just doesn't make mistakes, man. So was it like strength? Was it athleticism? Was it both? Like, what was it about Zach Martin that made him so tough to beat?
It was just strength. I feel like I would have good leverage on him, and he'd still just kind of plant his feet in the ground and not get moved at all. So he was just, he was by far just the strongest, like most, solid player that I've played against. It's just he was kind of on a different level than most of the offensive linemen I've gone against.
And this being a Chargers blog, that's Chris Watt is actually who the starting center is, and hopefully, I actually think his best position will be at left guard next year. So, let's talk a little bit about Chris Watt. What is it? The same mold, maybe like Zach Martin light, where he's not as strong, not as athletic, but doesn't make the same mistakes. So what did you see with Chris Watt?
Yeah, he was the same sort of, he was the same sort of mold as Zach Martin. Obviously, he's not as big, but he was he was still just real strong. Whenever I was in a 3-tech lined up on him, he's quick enough to try to, if he's trying to reach you or something, he's quick enough to get out there in a hurry. But he's also just strong enough and stout enough to get movement, run blocking. So just straight ahead. So yeah, he was. Both of them were just real stout guys that were hard to move on and hard to push back.
I'm glad you said 3-tech, because when I watched you, I thought that you would be best as like a 5 technique in a 3-4 base defense, which is what the Chargers do. So you'd be lined up outside of the offensive tackle on base, in their base package, and that way you could use your strength and leverage to make plays in the run game, and then I would kick you inside over the guard or outside of the guard on passing downs, and I think that you'd be able to win with athleticism there. So in your opinion, what do you think the best position in the NFL would be?
Yeah, I think obviously I'm most comfortable at that position because I've played it for 5 years now, and I do think bumping inside on pass downs, like whenever I'm in a 3-tech and it's 3rd and long, I feel like I can't be blocked and I can do whatever I want when I'm lined up on the guard, because I just think I'm too quick and have too many moves for them to really get a feel for what I'm doing and to be able to block me on passing down. So I think kicking in there on 3rd downs is something that I would definitely be good at. But I think I've played all over the place at Stanford. I've played anywhere from head up on the center to to outside on the tackle. So I feel comfortable all over the place. I did play, the 4-3 close side end in the Senior Bowl, and felt comfortable there. It was new to me, but it wasn't a big learning experience, and felt like it was not a huge adjustment for me.
So is that something that you think that you could do going forward, playing that closed end, or do you think you prefer staying in like more of a 3-4?
I think either one. Whatever team drafts me, I think I'll be able to pick up the scheme and pick up whatever they're doing on defense very quickly, and be able to adjust and learn from the coaching staff, learn from the older guys, all the nuances of the position. But I think I could do really either one.
So you brought up the Senior Bowl, so let's talk about. So who was the best player that you went against at the Senior Bowl?
I think Lakin Tomlinson, the guard, was from Duke, was real good. The Collins, the tackle from LSU, was also really good. And I'm trying to think of one more. I thought the tackle from Penn State was also really. I think it was Donovan Smith.
Yeah.
So he was real good too. A lot of those guys I just like. I don't even know who I would go up against a lot of the time, just because I didn't really know who they were. But I think those 3 guys I remembered, and they were probably the best. I don't know, out of those 3, which one was the best, but I remember all of them.
Are these guys more sound than you anticipated, or are they just so strong that you almost have to overcorrect your technique in order to beat them? Or I guess just real quick, what made those guys so hard to beat?
Yeah, I remember Donovan Smith was just a big, strong guy. He's just got a big body, a lot of strength, so it was harder against him to really get movement. Lakin Tomlinson is also just he fires off the ball with really good pad level, so it can be harder to get underneath him. And Collins, I think he had just real good feet and was a quicker tackle than a lot of other people that I've faced. So I think from what I remember, I think those are kind of the qualities that set them apart.
Well, that sounds like Lil Collins' scouting report to a T. So I mean, that's good to hear. So I'm pretty fascinated to just sort of pick the brains of players, for what you guys are looking for. So like for example, if you're lined up like head up on a guard and you notice that the guard is a little deeper than usual, that might tip off the fact that they're trying to get depth maybe and kind of reach you on a zone step, like little stuff like that. So what would you say some tips that you picked up along the way before the snap from with offensive linemen or in any position in that regard to help you before the snap?
It's yeah, I mean a lot of it has to do with kind of what you said, just little things that offensive linemen will do before the snap, whether it's aligning a little bit deep, a little bit widening out their splits a little bit. One of the things that I try to look at is just kind of lean and eyes of the offensive lineman in their stance, their weight distribution, just little things like that that I can try to pick up on and that can tell you a lot about the play before the ball is snapped. So I try to pick up on as many things as I can, and I love watching film and try to dissect as many different things as possible on each play.
So when you're watching film, let's say you're watching somebody else, who's a player that's helped you develop and learn the most?
I think being from the Bay Area, Justin Smith's on a lot of the time. So watching him just kind of grind out plays is something that I like watching. Two guys that I do enjoy, but I don't really get to see as much of them just because their games aren't televised as often out in the Bay Area. Are obviously J.J. Watt's a guy that every defensive end is going to watch and try to learn from. And Aaron Donald too is someone that I started watching last year when he was at Pitt, and seeing his success translate into the NFL has been fun to watch, and just seeing his explosiveness and his ability to disrupt plays in the backfield is something that I try to learn from and try to pick up on as much as I can.
You said you watched Aaron Donald in college. Were you surprised about how well he played his rookie year?
Honestly, no, because I was actually watching a lot of him going against Chris Martin and
Yeah.
Martin, because I remember he played Pitt played Notre Dame last year, and so I was watching a ton of him against those two, and he was playing just like. Every single play, he was, it seemed like he was doing exactly what he needed to do. They never, Martin and Watt would never really get movement on him. And I guess a lot of scouts and NFL people had thought that, being shorter, Aaron Donald would kind of slide down the draft board a little bit. But that, being a little bit shorter on the inside, I think helps him just keep good leverage and be able to, keep good pad level and stay underneath offensive linemen. So I wasn't really surprised just seeing the things that he did against, especially those two guys who were Chris Watt's a starter now and Zach Martin's an All-Pro. So I wasn't too surprised that his success translated.
So kind of segueing from height and numbers into the combine. So your combine numbers, it caught some guys off guard. I thought personally that you would test fine, but I didn't even think that you would put up some of the numbers that you did. Were you surprised that some of your agility scores were better than running backs and wide receivers, or did you expect that?
I expected that. Just training and all the experts don't really see the work that you put in off the when you're not at the combine and things like that. But I mean I was kind of expecting that, and my 3-cone was quite a bit slower than I was hoping for too. So we had like one rep in that, and I kind of got stuck in a turn, and I probably should have just kind of faulted and tried to start that over again to get a better time. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't too surprised by it. It's just something that I've been working on a lot, and I feel like I do have really good quickness and agility for a guy my size.
So what would you say? What is your best 3-cone that you tested at? Because I mean, you tested in the 92nd percentile, so you're not exactly slacking in that area.
Yeah, I mean, just 3-cone especially is something that I've always I've tinkered with different techniques, and we work on it at Stanford because it's something that we do like every spring as we test in Elkhorn. So I've tried a bunch of different techniques in that, and so I've kind of worked on getting that as low as possible. My best was 7:03 in that, so I was kind of disappointed, and I was hoping to kind of the adrenaline and all of the stuff at the combine would kind of get me to run a little bit faster. So I was hoping to break 7, but fortunately that didn't happen. But I guess 7.2 isn't terrible, so I don't know if I'm going to run that at my pro day or not, but if I do, I'm going to definitely try to better that.
What? So you said about your pro day. What all do you plan on doing there? Are you gonna do everything over again, or are you gonna stand on any numbers?
Not sure. I do think like the stuff that I did at the combine, I feel like I can still improve on, but I am not sure yet what I'm going to do at my pro day.
So yeah, I was just gonna say now that you have tested so well, we're gonna have to shed the lunch pail, typical white guy lunch pail. We're gonna have to come up with another name for you. So
yeah.
Well, that was good to see, though. So I did mention that when I did write about you yesterday, one area that I felt that you can improve on is balance. And as productive as you were, as many plays as you made, I felt like you were on the ground too much. I think that I always remember hearing, coaches over here, you can't make plays from the ground. So what's the area that you feel like that you can improve on in your self-scouting wise?
Yeah, that's the same thing that I would say is something that I need to work on. I think sometimes I can kind of get too aggressive or just try to do too much on a play and just get off balance. I can kind of get a little wild sometimes. And take a chance that I probably shouldn't take. But yes, I do think that balance is something that, and I don't even know if I don't know. I guess you'd call it balance, but it's just kind of getting in a pile sometimes and stumbling, or just getting clipped. My ankle just getting clipped by somebody else, or stumbling over someone else's feet. So I do think that there are times when staying on my feet would help me make a tackle or get in the backfield, make plays. So that's something that I worked on, and my position coach also kind of made me aware of that, and that's something that I'm definitely working on.
So one of my friends that also writes about the draft, he came up with just the phrase about a trump card. Every prospect has their trump card, and that's the reason that they'd be successful in the NFL. What do you think your trump card is, and why? Like why is that trait going to make you successful in the NFL?
I think my trump card. I think the thing that kind of sets me apart from everyone else, or kind of guys at my position, would be just the size that I have at 6'6" and almost 295, being able to to hold my ground and get penetration in the run game, and at the same time have the quickness and just the refined pass rush moves to kick inside or just rush over the tackle and get through and disrupt the quarterback on passing downs. I think kind of that combination is something that you don't find a lot of, or don't find in a lot of players. I feel like you usually find kind of an edge rusher type player where you bring them in on third down, but you can't really put them in on run downs because they're just a little smaller rushing the edge. or you find kind of big run stopping D tackles who you got to take out on third down because they can't get after the passer. But I feel like I can do both exceptionally well, and I think I've proved that at Stanford, and I think I'm going to continue to prove that at the next level.
No, I agree, I also think that Stanford did a really good job of preparing you. It seemed like the defense, like you said, you played up and down the line of scrimmage. You lined up in some gaps to be aggressive and shoot the gaps, and then also you lined up head up, and you were asked to two gap at times. So it seemed like they put you in almost every scheme possible at every position possible to be successful.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, we run a lot of different defenses. We do a lot of stuff up front. We have smart guys at Stanford, so they throw a lot at us because they know we can pick it up. So we've done a lot of stuff over the past 5 years. We did have a defense where the DNs would drop my freshman year. Unfortunately, they took that out, so I wasn't dropping the coverage as much as I wanted. But I wish I'd been able to do that a little bit last year.
So obviously the sack is like probably the greatest feeling for defensive linemen. What would be after that? Say you're not getting a sack. What's the most gratifying thing for a defensive lineman?
I think a sack is definitely definitely the best feeling. I think just even if you don't get a sack, I think if you just kind of like if you beat the dude clean, like if I set up a pass rush move and I beat the dude clean, and have him stumbling forward because he missed on, his hands missed, and just being able to run past him and not sack, even if it's not a sack, but just kind of affecting the quarterback's throw. But I think just kind of like embarrassing the offensive lineman with how bad I just beat him is probably the best feeling after a sack. And obviously, if you do that with the sack, that's even better. But I think just kind of being able to do, visualize something and then go and execute it exactly how you imagined, and just kind of embarrassing the offensive lineman is something that I definitely enjoy doing.
So as you're rushing the passer, or even trying to disengage versus the run, is this something that's pre-thought of? I'm going to try a club rip move before the play even starts, or is this something that you are doing as the play is going on and just kind of having a natural feel of when to pull off a move?
Yeah, like pass rush wise, a lot of times, you'll kind of get a pre-snap read. If it's pass, their weight's back in their stance, or it's just third and long, so you're expecting pass. So in that case, I'll have my pass rush move predetermined, and when the ball is snapped, I'll go ahead and execute that. But as far as kind of disengaging, and getting the hands off on a run, a lot of that is kind of just instincts, and it's not really. I think it's just more of instincts and something that you feel over time. The reps that you get in practice, and just watching film and all that kind of stuff is something that you just learn over time. And I think part of it too is just kind of having the football IQ and the knowledge of the game. Knowing that there's a lot of times when say I have B gap and they're running kind of an outside zone. I might stay in B gap, and I can just kind of sense that the running back isn't going to take the ball outside. So instead of ripping out to my gap, I'll wait for the running back to cut back in and disengage back inside and make the play there, rather than kind of pulling B gap, taking myself out of the play. Even though I guess that's technically would be the right thing to do, but I think after taking so many reps and just kind of having that football IQ, you just kind of feel that this is going to do another thing.
Yeah, and as popular as analytics are now, and I really like analytics, I think just what you said just goes to prove that at the end of the day, you just can't rely on what's down on a piece of paper. So that's a really good point. I like that you said that. So before we get out of here, I just want to touch on the NFL real quick. And what do you think will be the biggest adjustment for you? And not just on the field wise, but maybe in general as a lifestyle. What would you say is going to be the biggest adjustment for you moving forward?
I don't know what's going to be lifestyle wise. I'm not sure. I don't think I'm going to be spending a bunch of money. I don't think I'm going to be, going to the club on the weekends and, spending a bunch of money. Or
Are we going to see you in a Lamborghini?
wise, but yeah, I don't really, not sure. I'll have to think about that one.
And the last question I would have for you: what are you most looking forward to playing in the NFL?
I think just competing. That's something that uh, I've grown up just loving to compete. I played as many sports as possible as a kid, and just throughout my entire athletic career, I've just loved competing and loved lining up across from dudes and just one on one, just competing against the guys. So in the NFL, I don't know if there's one thing that I look forward to, but just in general, just being able to compete with myself, with my teammates, and obviously with the opponent on Sundays. So I think that's kind of the one thing that I am definitely looking forward to.
Awesome, man. Well, I really want to thank you for taking the time to do this.
Definitely.
You sound like a very confident player, and I think that shows on the field. And I really do wish you the best of luck. And if you do improve on that three-cone time, you pass certain thresholds in the advanced analytics stats. So if all goes well, you're supposed to be very good in the NFL. So you got a lot to live up to. So
Sounds good. I'll let you know. I'll let you know about the three count. I appreciate the time.
all right, man. Have a just good luck with the training, man. Wish the best for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, and thanks for listening, guys.